I am totally blind, and Non-24 can throw my day.
T-Mobile's Unlimited now includes Netflix on Us. That's right, Netflix on Us. Get 4 unlimited lines for just $40 each, taxes and fees included. And now, Netflix included. So go ahead, binge on Us. Another reason why T-Mobile is America's best unlimited network.
We believe in rock and roll. We believe in blasting it down the fairway, turning up the heat and the fun. At Del Webb, we believe in life well led, in your own beautiful, smartly designed home, in an active adult community with sushi eaters, artists, thrill seekers, and you. We believe you'll like it
Frisky's World. Frisky's
Hey, what's
World.
that? Hey, what's that?
Gravy.
You mean
Gravy.
extra gravy. You mean extra gravy. That's new Friskies. That's new Friskies. Extra gravy. Chunky.
Paradise.
Feed their fantasy.
Really?
Feed their fantasy.
QuickBooks introduces Rodney.
QuickBooks
and his
introduces
new
Rodney.
business.
And his new
He
business.
teaches lessons to Stanley.
He teaches lessons to
And
Stanley.
that's kind of it right
And
now.
that's kind
But
of it
Rodney
right
knew
now.
just what
But
to
Rodney
do.
knew
He
just
got
what to do.
QuickBooks.
He
He
got
organizes
QuickBooks.
all his
He
accounts.
organizes
So he
all
knows
his
where he
accounts.
stands.
So
He knows where he stands in an
That's a
instant.
profit.
Which gave him
That's a
the
profit.
idea to
Which
spend
gave
a
him the
little
idea
cash
to
to
spend
spend
a
a little
little
cash
cash on some brilliant marketing.
Clever.
Wow,
Clever.
look at all these new
Wow,
students.
look at all these new
Way
students.
to grow, Rodney. Way to grow, Rodney. Know where you stand, instantly. Know where you stand,
Visit QuickBooks.com. Visit QuickBooks.com.
Like many of you, I have muscle pain and arthritis. I tried just about everything. I tried just about everything, but nothing really worked. Until I found Synedrin's fast-acting topical gel formulated with Immunidrin is a powerful omega-5 overall joint health and mobility. Synedrin really works. Synedrin really works. Providing the quick relief I need. Try Synedrin today. Try Synedrin today and get your life back.
Visit Synedrin.com. Visit Synedrin.com to find a retailer near you.
It's the 10th season. The 10th season. Had I still have a job?
Season 10 of Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown. Starts Sunday, October 1st to 9. Sunday, October 1st to 9.
At the original mattress factory, we build our orthopedic line with you in mind. High-quality woven fabrics, high-density foams, and natural padding. We use a premium quality support system and real working box springs for optimal support and long-term durability. Our two-sided mattress construction helps the mattress last longer and minimizes body impression. So stop by an original mattress near you and experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original. Experience an original.
What will you find here? What will you find here?
Do you know? Do you know where you go? Where you go is where to be. Life is just
For life's most important journeys.
Lucky you, lucky you, lucky
Ohio.
me.
Find it here. Find it here.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
All right, Chris Cuomo in Naples, Florida, the western coast of the state. This is a state area. This is a particular concern because it's only 5-10 feet above sea level. And what we're dealing with right now is the backside of the storm. They were gusts up to, I believe, 140 miles an hour. Chad Myers says that will stand up. Some type of potential record. But while the wind gets the headlines, you have to worry about it. It is drowning. The most deaths in a hurricane, the most storm surge is directly to that type of concern. What we're dealing with now is this backside of the storm, counterclockwise, so the energy distributes on one side, now comes back on the other side. That's why the water was getting sucked out of the bayous and the bays on this side of the state as the storm moved here. Now we're getting that wind back in, and with it will come that water, and with it will come storm surge. So we're keeping our eyes open to see how far and how much that is, and we'll use Chad to take us through it. There are some very upsetting numbers that are coming out of this storm. Right now, 2.3 million people are without power in Florida, and compounding the loss may be the length of loss, how long they go without power. It could be days or weeks, the governor's office said. So 2.3 million, and again, the storm has not made it the full length of this state yet. Also, 70,000 people are in shelters. That is actually good news, because that means that people got out and got to a position of safety. We did hear about some power loss in a shelter from Drew Griffin a little bit further north from here, but nothing disastrous or no real danger at any of the shelters, and that's good news. We spoke to Bill Weir, who's doing surveillance of the debris fields and the different damage from Irma starting in Key Largo and moving north. He hasn't heard about anything disastrous or deadly yet. It's early, but take good news where we find it. So that is the situation here in Naples. We're going to start checking around and seeing how other people are doing. Controller, you tell me who we have, because I know it's not easy to get shots up right now. All right, so we'll go to Miguel Marquez. He's north of us in Punta Gorda. That's a place that's been very hard hit in the past. Miguel, how's it doing right now? You were showing an amazing picture earlier, I'm told, of the water being sucked out of a marina, replaced temporarily with fresh water, flood water from the rain. How is it now?
Yeah, we're still in that same situation. This is actually a boat ramp in the main marina in Punta Gorda, and I should be covered in water right now, seawater. But instead, the entire marina is completely devoid of any seawater. The only water you're seeing here, that ship off in the distance, that boat with the lights on, that is sitting on mud, as is the sailboat right in front of it. All the water in here right now is all fresh water that's just pouring in off the land. They're expecting a storm surge when this storm turns around and starts coming back the other way, a storm surge of 5 to 8 feet. I want to show you what's going on with the trees there. I saw the lights flicker out here, at least in the area we're in Punta Gorda, so they may have lost electricity here. But you can see the intensity of the wind here. We're probably getting 50, 60 mile per hour winds at this point, because it hurts not only when I put my hand out and it hurts the skin, but even through the jacket, it is painful to feel the water hitting the jacket, and you can feel it through the jacket. The storm really kicking up now. This is what you guys were experiencing probably a couple of hours ago. The eye wall still probably an hour out, 2 hours out from here. The emergency services says they're preparing for hurricane force winds in this area around 8 p.m. tonight. Everybody is to shelter in place and just try to ride this one out. Chris?
All right, Miguel, please stay safe and stay in contact and let me know when to come back to you, and we will straight away. Let's get to Drew Griffin right now. He's in Fort Myer. What are you seeing there right now, Drew?
We are shooting. Okay, good?
Yeah, someone's gone.
Okay, all right. We're just in the cove of this building. The wind is incredible, Chris. We're going to just try to regather. We thought we heard something falling. There's a lot of gutters coming down the street, and here's the situation. We are very much near the southwest Florida Fort Myers Airport, so whatever wind gust Chad Myers is getting there, that's what we're getting now. Visually, this is the worst wind we have had to date, and it seems to be increasing yet as the eye wall should be approaching us now here in the Fort Myers area. Just incredible wind. I know you can't see it, Chris, but you might be able to hear it. It is just blasting through here, and there's a lot. Anything that is loose, any of the debris is now flying, and you really need to be sheltered from this, which we are. We are behind a solid building, 4-story building, taking you pictures of this. But the trees that were being battered are now laying down.
and the actual cars. I see a Jeep Cherokee in the parking lot. It's just getting bobbed around in the wind. So we feel like we're getting the brunt of the storm in Fort Myers right now in terms of the wind, Chris. Be interesting to see if Chad Myers can confirm the strength of the wind that we're seeing right now, right near the airport. Chris?
Oh, he'll measure it, and I'll pass it along straight away, Drew. And obviously, you know you've been through this before. You're going to get it one way. There's going to be a window where that eye goes over, if it does, where there'll be some relative calm, and then you're going to get it the other way. That's the way we're getting it right now in Naples as the backside of the storm, even though there's not a wall on the backside. It's plenty strong. The gusts we're getting are impressive, and you have the added consideration of storm surge and the added consideration to that of the weak points of leverage of all the structures and the trees that took all that force in the opposite direction. So now the way that they were leaning is getting buffeted by wind in the opposite direction. That can have a compounding effect, makes it even more likely that you're going to have damage and extra debris in the debris field. So Drew, hang tight there and just give me one sense. What are you hearing from people inside those shelters? Anything? Are people relatively okay? Are they dealing with the situation well? You're hearing anything at all?
Yeah, they're dealing with the situation fine, and right now this is they're glad they're in a shelter, quite frankly. There were a lot of people ho-humming, wondering whether or not this was not going to be what it was. They are realizing now that this is the real deal. This is why they're in a shelter, and this is why we're staying out of harm's way. Chris, we'll keep our shot up as you continue to move along because the wind is impressive. It takes the breath out of me and it takes the words out of my mouth, so we'll just show you the pictures.
Listen, I'm with you. I know from whence you speak. So look, stay as safe as you can. You know how to do the job. I'll check back with you in a little bit. Stay in contact with the control room. Let us know what we need to know. Let's go right now to Brian Todd. He's in West Palm Beach. Okay, that's further south here in that Miami area on that eastern part of the state. They got hit plenty hard there. Let's check in with him now. Brian, what's the latest from where you are?
Well, Chris, the wind has not decreased in intensity at all. It is incredibly intense here. Hurricane-force winds have been going on for hours, and they've only been intensifying. We are in what they call the dirty end of the storm, the northeast quadrant, and the danger that we have here, in addition to the storm surge and the wind, is tornadic activity. Tornadoes have been kind of cropping up. The threats have been cropping up. We've been under warnings from the west, the north, the south, and from waterspouts that have been developing offshore. I mean, you can see how it's just buffeting me right now. I'm going to have our photojournalist David Brooks pan over. You can see some David's got to be steady by our producer here, David Shortell. There's been such intense wind here. You see those modern art sculptures there? That one on the far right, that cube, that just got lifted up and moved about 40 yards to where it is. That is what we're dealing with here, with some of the, almost tornado-like activity here and tornado threats. What I can also tell you, Chris, we've just gotten word from authorities here in Palm Beach County. Their sheriff has tweeted out a message of condolence because he has reported that 2 law enforcement officers in Hardee County, Florida, just north of here, have died in some kind of a vehicle crash. So you've got 2 law enforcement officers, we're being told by Palm Beach officials, who have died in some kind of a vehicle crash north of here. The details are not great at the moment as to what happened to those 2 officers, but they were apparently in some kind of an evacuation zone when their vehicle crashed. So that's one thing that we can tell you. Another thing is, officials here have made about 40+ arrests of people who have violated curfew. You see just how intense the storm activity is here. At times, visibility has been almost nil behind us. We've got a construction site back there, and debris has been flying from that thing all day long. So just about everything you can see here that's not a building can be a potential projectile. These stanchions here from this traffic light have been wobbling for hours, as have these regular road signs over here. We've been thinking that they may be uprooted. Storm surge is also going to be an issue. They're worried about more flooding on Flagler Drive here. That could come anytime. The The storm surge hasn't been too bad in the last few hours, thankfully. That's something that they're watching very intensely here in West Palm Beach, Chris.
All right, Brian, very sobering news about those officers. Let us know if you get any details there. But, of course, the priority is on keeping yourself and your team safe. Those arrests, it's also upsetting. I mean, if it was just for curfew, that's one thing. But if there's more nefarious activity, you know, a situation like this, when we're dealing with the worst, we really need the best out of everybody on the ground who's going through it and to pull together. That's what's going to make the storm survivable in the main. All right, let's take a break right now. Brian Todd, thank you very much. We'll check back with you. We have at CNN people everywhere this storm has been, is now, and where Irma will be going. Stay with CNN.
Tired of wrestling with seemingly impossible cleaning tasks? Using sprays in the bathroom can be ineffective. Try Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. Simply add water to remove soap scum and grime. Try Mr. Clean Magic Eraser.
The day after chemo might mean a trip back to the doctor's office, just for a shot. But why go back there when you can stay home?
Strong chemo can put you at risk of serious infection, which could lead to hospitalizations. In a key study, Neulasta reduced the risk of infection from 17% to 1%, a 94% decrease. Applied the day of chemo, Neulasta Onpro is designed to deliver Neulasta the next day, so you can stay home. Neulasta is for certain cancer patients receiving strong chemotherapy. Do not take Neulasta if you're allergic to Neulasta or Neupogen, filgrastim. Ruptured spleen, sometimes fatal, as well as serious lung problems, allergic reactions, kidney injuries, and capillary leak syndrome have occurred. Report abdominal or shoulder tip pain, trouble breathing, or allergic reactions to your doctor right away. In patients with sickle cell disorders, serious, sometimes fatal crises can occur. The most common side effect is bone and muscle ache.
So why go back there? If you'd rather be home, ask your doctor about Neulasta Onpro.
Now you can win $1,000 a day for life from Publishers Clearinghouse.
This is a joke.
It's no joke. It's $1,000 a day, every day, for life. Go to PCH.com and enter. October 13th, you can win $1,000 a day for life.
How do we say that this fall our guests can earn a free night when they book at choicehotels.com and stay with us just 2 times?
Fall time, bada book, bada boom.
Pumpkin spice cookie?
I'm good.
Book now at choicehotels.com.
This month on Late Show, we're previewing the
It's about moving forward, not back. It's looking up, not down. It's being in motion, in body, in spirit, in the now. Boost High Protein. It's intelligent nutrition with 15 grams of protein and 26 vitamins and minerals. For when you need a little extra. Boost, the #1 high protein.
I'm Chris and I lost 120 pounds.
For it.
I'm Chris and I lost 120 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Listen up, guys. Want to shed a few pounds? Got a beer belly going on? Can't fit into your pants? Then you need Nutrisystem for men.
I'm Essex, and I lost 43 pounds on Nutrisystem.
I'm Trevor, and I lost 60 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Lose 15 pounds and 7 inches in your first month. Lose weight fast. Money back guarantee. Real guys, real results.
I'm Michael, and I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Put down the pie, pick up the phone, and get with the program today. Get 1 week of all new Nutri-Crush bars free and 1 week of Turbo Shakes free.
The food was delicious.
If you're like me and you like to eat, this is what you get to do.
This is perfect for men, especially guys who don't want to cook.
So get off the couch, call or go online in the next 2 minutes, and we'll even throw in FedEx shipping. Free! Lose 15 pounds and 7 inches in your first month.
It's not that hard. You eat the food, you lose the weight.
Go online or call 888-660-THIN to get Nutrisystem for Men with bars and shakes free.
Oh, I'm not a security guard. I'm a security monitor. I only notify people if there's a robbery. There's a robbery.
Why monitor a problem if you don't fix it? That's why credit monitoring isn't enough to protect you from identity theft. At LifeLock, we not only alert you to identity threats. If you have a problem, we'll work to fix it with our $1 Million Protection Package. LifeLock. Join starting at $9.99 a month.
The National Weather Center is that the water level has raised itself 7 feet in the last 90 minutes. The water level here in Naples, Florida has gone up 7 feet in the last 90 minutes. Chad Myers, if you're still with me,
yes.
I can't see it. We can't get down there. I can't put eyes on it. I do not see it coming up this street yet. These gusts are no joke. I'm sure that's going to help motivate the surge. What do you know?
It's the exact thing that in opposite that pushed the
gusts are no joke. I'm sure.
Now we have the winds pushing back onshore there, and the water from offshore being pushed not only with the bubble of surge, but being pushed along just the same. Now we have the winds pushing back onshore there, and the water. Our reporter there was asking what it was like. Not only with the bubble of surge, but being pushed 125 is still on the way about 5 minutes from right now. Marco Island now beginning to flood. Marco Island PD just put out a tweet saying San Marco Road underwater, do not try to travel on it. And there was a picture there. So the water is coming up in San Marco. The water is coming up in Naples. And let me show you if I can get to the Naples map. Here's the reason why they said up 7 feet. We were 6.09 above sea level. Down here, we were 2.5 below. So that surge is now up 8.5 feet from where we were. And that's not a straight line going up, but it's not leveling off. That water's still going up in Marco Island. That water's still going up here as you take a look at Naples. And that's the next stop. I mean, the next stop for the wind coming back around is the backside of Naples. That's the wind you're seeing. A straight line going up. Now, Chris, you had 141 earlier on the top side when you had the storm itself, the thunderstorms as well. You're not going to get 141 on the backside because there really isn't much of a storm system there. You know how every time a band comes by, the wind picks up? Well, there's no band there anymore. So your wind is going to be 80 or 90 miles per hour, whereas that's almost what they're still seeing on the East Coast. The important part is there is still an eastward component to that wind pushing that water back into Marco Island and into Naples itself. That's the big story for the rest of the night. As we push you ahead, we move the storm component to that wind, Cape Coral, to Port Charlotte, to Punta Gorda, and to Bradenton. This is where the storm is going next. It is losing some intensity, but not.
I mean, it's a big storm. It just never seems to end.
West Palm is still in it because that outer eye wall is still there. The outer band is still there. There's a band through here. Just look for the colors on a radar map, and that's where you know the wind is going to be strongest. Now, the wind in a hurricane is strong up above. The winds up there are not 2 times, but 1.5 times higher than at the surface. So when it rains down, that rain brings the wind with it. It rolls the wind with it. So that's where when it's not raining, the wind isn't so bad. When it is raining, this is the translational wind coming from up above in the energy of the hurricane and coming down to the surface. And that's what you were in earlier. This is where the translational wind is right now, just to the east of Bonita Springs, to the east here of Cypress Lake. And that's where the heaviest wind is now. This will rotate around, and you will get to Cape Coral. You'll get to Punta Gorda. You'll get those significant winds with wind damage. It's just the surge right now that we're waiting on. And right now the water is up about 8.5 feet from where it was when the storm just went by. And it's still going up for you, Chris. I don't think that will finally end for maybe 2 more hours. The water will rise slowly, still one wave after another, for 2 more hours for you. We'll see where it ends up.
All right, good to know. And again, it's not easy to stand in it, but our hearts go out to the families and the seniors who stayed behind and are suffering through it indoors right now. Many of them without power. Over 2 million people, almost 2.5 million people without power now. So imagine, you guys who are watching this have the benefit of Chad Myers and the science and understanding the timing. And let me tell you, you can say like an eternity if you don't have a sense of when something is supposed to end. So Hearts go out to those people, and we look forward to this being over so we can get out and see what people need and start dealing with recovery. But we're not there yet. In fact, we're not even close. So let's get to Ryan Young. He's still on the front side of this storm in St. Petersburg. Ryan, if you can hear me, and start dealing with recovery. But we're not there yet. In fact, we're not even close. So let's get to Ryan Young. He's still on the front side of this storm in St. Petersburg. Ryan, if you can hear me, what's the status?
Well, absolutely, Chris. We've seen the winds pick up here. And I'll tell you this, as someone who grew up in Florida, you know, you mark your life by hurricanes. And I can remember Hurricane Andrew just as clear as yesterday in terms of where it marked my life. This might be the same thing for this storm in terms of people talking about the power of it, especially folks who live in this area who weren't expecting. People have gotten off the road. We've even seen people who were desperate to get wood up on their windows. So what they did was they even took wooden benches, put them up to their windows, and started drilling in. Talked to a man who lived through Andrew. He said he never in his life wanted to go through a hurricane again. He was boarding up his dream home. He wanted to get out of the area. That desperation, you can feel it for people who decided to get out. Talking to folks who are going to hotels, they said they would rather stay in a hotel than be in a home and experience this by themselves. But at this hour, as you see the roadway here, still power on. That is a key part at this point. Nothing has been going off at this point. We've heard transporters popping earlier, but so far that power still remains. Power lines above our heads at this point are shaking back and forth, but nothing seriously moving or snapping. So that is the good news, because I heard you talk about that snap, crackle, pop earlier. Some trees have gone down, but so far we haven't heard about any serious damage or, of course, any loss of life or anyone in trouble as we keep checking in with emergency management.
All right, Ryan Young, excellent reporting. Please stay safe, my friend. I put you in the wrong place. You are in Clearwater, Florida. You are dealing with Irma on the front end. Stay in touch with us. I'll get back to you in a little bit. All right, let's take a break right now. We are in complete coverage of Hurricane Irma, what she's done so far and where she is to go. We'll be on it.
T-Mobile's Unlimited now includes Netflix on Us. That's right, Netflix on Us. Get 4 unlimited lines for just $40 each, taxes and fees included. And now, Netflix included. So go ahead, binge on Us. Woo! Another reason why T-Mobile is America's best unlimited network.
It's like magic. All rolling and riding and sleeping and sliding. It's magic.
Introducing the all-new Volkswagen Tiguan, the new king of the concrete jungle.
When you schedule with Safe by Autoglass, you get a text when we're on our way. You can see exactly when we'll arrive. I'm Micah with Safe Flight.
Thanks for coming. It's right over here.
Giving you a few more minutes for what matters most. Take care.
Safe Flight Repair, Safe Flight Repair, Safe Flight Replace.
After a Hall of Fame career, it's no wonder why Blue Emu arthritis cream. Blue Emu's non-greasy, deep penetrating formula gets down deep into those joints for big-time pain relief. Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink.
As a Hall of Fame coach, I know it takes the right combination of ingredients to win championships. Synedrin fast-acting gel, powered by Immunogrin, powered by Immunogrin, skin to get the fastest skin you need, fast relief you need. Whether you're a weekend warrior, whether you're a weekend all day, why settle for less? Why settle for less? Synedrin, have the best fast-acting gel, results guaranteed.
Synedrin.com. Visit Synedrin.com to find a retailer near you.
We do all this research. We do all this research on the perfect car tree. Smash it into a tree. Your insurance company raises your rates. Maybe you should have done more research on them.
Drivers with accident forgiveness. For drivers with accident forgiveness, raise your rates due to your first accident. Switch and you could save $782 on home and auto insurance.
Now includes Netflix on
Call 1-888-776-2147 for a free quote today.
Get 4 unlimited lines for just
Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
And now, Netflix
left and right.
So go ahead, binge on Us. Another reason why T-Mobile is America's best unlimited network.
To the most catastrophic terrorist attack on U.S. soil.
their sacrifice unfathomable.
Every time they leave and they come back, they're a little bit different each time.
Their bond unbreakable.
The only way we're all going to heal each other is to get back together. It's like brotherhood.
Legion of Brothers premieres September 24th on CNN.
So busy in here.
Introducing
Yeah, those are my
the
exo
all-new
searchers.
Volkswagen
They're searching
Tiguan,
hundreds of exercises so I can find the one that's right for me. Oh, kind of like how kayaks are just hundreds of travel sites so you can find the flight that's right for you.
When we're on our way, you can see exactly
like
when
how
we'll
kayak
arrive.
does that.
I'm Michael with Safe Flight.
Thanks for coming.
Giving you a few more minutes for what matters most.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm John.
Compare hundreds of travel sites at once. Kayak,
It's
search
no
one
wonder
and
why I
done.
use Blue Emu Arthritis Cream. Blue Emu's
Dish customers can watch games from every Pac-12 school, which can lead to fighting over the remote, which can lead to fighting over the remote. But you don't have to fight.
As a Hall of Fame coach, I know it takes the right combination of ingredients to win championships.
If you need a little me time, you can catch the game using your
Synergen
phone, or you can top the game using your iPhone or laptop, dish, and satellite television provider, and Pac-12 network. Television
Whether you're a
provider,
weekend
Pac-12
warrior or on your
network.
feet all day, why settle for less? Have the best with Synergen. Fast-acting gel.
Closed captioning brought to you by Midnight. Closed captioning brought to you to get the sleep you need. The drug-free way to get the sleep you need.
Research on perfect cars and smash it into a tree. Your insurance company raises your rates. Maybe you should have done more research on that.
Midnight, the drug-free drivers with accident preparedness. Liberty Mutual won't raise your rates due to your first accident.
All right, Chris Cuomo here in
Switch and you
Naples
can
on the
save
western coast of
$782
Florida.
on
We're
all
on the western coast of Florida. Right now we want to go to Hurricane Irma. Right now we want to go to Miami. And even though the eye of the storm has moved, even though the eye of the storm has moved, the size of this storm, we kept saying the size of this size of a state. The reality is the size of a state. Here in Naples we're getting hit. Here in Naples we're getting hit. Miami. Omar, what's the situation in Miami? Omar, what's the situation?
We've been seeing gusts of wind throughout. We've been seeing gusts of wind throughout. We knew Miami was going to get the worst of it. Where I'm standing right now is sort of a good picture. Where I'm standing right now is sort of a good picture of what we've seen. All of these come down, branches and dirt have come down images of the day of cranes. We've seen the images of the two cranes here in Miami that have spun as well. This partial collapses as well. This road in the middle of downtown Miami. This road is now downtown Miami. This road is now filled with water. Definitely not passable. Filled with water, definitely not cars we've seen pass through at this point. The main cars we've seen pass through at this point. We just saw one go by, indicating that there are situations indicating that there is plan to respond to today. While the rain has respond to today, mentioned a good point that the next threat that people and officials have warned people about is that officials storm surge that comes right after storm surge. I can tell you here the hotel where we are staying. This is the first day the hotel where we are staying. This is the first day we've lost power. Start to grow by the thousand and is now in the millions statewide, and that is an issue that is going to continue to plague officials. But here in Miami would ordinarily be a very busy downtown on a Sunday afternoon, busy downtown desolate on a Sunday afternoon, and we've even seen roofs come off some of the, and we've even seen here as well. Some of the restaurants here as well. So Irma, while it did not. The eye as well did not come directly into where we are standing right now. The threat and the effects of Irma were felt very, very strongly here.
All right, Omar, stay safe. Stay in touch. Let me know when I need to come back to you. Let's get to Bill Weir. He was in Key Largo. He is now driving north to surveil the situation. And Bill, we're here in Naples, and we are getting beaten up by the backside of Irma.
Man, I feel you, brother. I've been there. We did it this morning, and now we're trying to see what's left as Irma blows town. We are in Key Largo, actually heading south. And here's a look at this pile of flotsam here in the middle of US 1, the overseas highway. Looks like there's some major appliances in there. That looks like a freezer. There's a jet ski. All kinds of debris. And this is like, you would think that this is windblown, but from the looks of it, it was washed up here by the storm surge. We are actually pointed south right now. The Atlantic Ocean is to your left on the screen. And boy, the folks who live on that side, you know, that, I don't know, maybe prime property, but they really paid the price for that real estate. But as you can see, these are all new newer homes. Those are post-Andrew homes up on the stilts, solid construction. And one thing that strikes me as I drive around today, we are seeing some devastated mobile home parks and boats and trailers tossed every which way. It looks like there's a container here that actually might have been stacked there before the storm. It looks like he used that to hold it down, to weight it against the wind. But what really strikes me, Chris, is when you look at the pictures here in the Upper Keys compared to the devastation down in Cuba and in some of the other Caribbean islands where they don't have building codes, it's a stark difference. Let's take a left here and see what's happening closer to the Atlantic. I'm cutting across. Here's a shot. That's the northbound lane of US 1. You can see why people are driving the wrong way on this highway. Yeah, Rod, you can roll it down. We're just getting a new fresh rain band kicking up here. It's been interesting. Hopefully you will, once it gets past you, Chris, there, you'll be able to get a lull in the storm the way we're now. But yeah, here's a looks like a dock that is washed up onto this street. Coconuts and palm fronds and down trees literally everywhere. And it really comes down to the sturdiness of your construction, depending on what's left. Wow, this one really took a hit over here on the left. Oh, this is Snappers, is it?
This is Snappers.
Oh, okay, this is, yeah, wow, I forgot this is where we were. This is, look at that. I didn't even know where we were turning, but this is where we were doing our Thursday night live shots. If you remember the people partying and making fun of those who evacuated early, this is it. And my goodness, and this is the Jack.
All right, we lost Bill Weir. We'll check back with him, but he is showing a stark difference between the romanticism that he chronicled of the conch lifestyle and that rugged individualism of wanting to wait out the storm regardless of the evacuation calls, and the reality of what Irma did down there. And it's still very early. We know what happened in the Caribbean, but not really. We don't know the full toll of what happened there. In Cuba, we still know very little, and we don't know a lot about what's happened here yet. So far, the news has not been that dire in terms of loss of life. That's good, but again, it's early. And the number one killer in a hurricane is not wind, it's water. And storm surge is just starting to come into effect. That's what we're dealing with here in Naples. The eye has gone by. This is the backside. We're not getting crushed with rain the way we did the first time. And maybe the wind's not as strong, but it's still plenty strong. And instead of rain this time, it's bringing with it water. All that water it sucked out is now going to come back, and there's a multiplier effect. That's the danger of the surge. So let's take a break right now. When we come back, we'll take you to the places that are dealing with the front side of Hurricane Irma and those who are still dealing with the storm surge threat, and that is the deadly concern. We'll be back.
As King Midas, I expect things to last a long time. And so should you.
Midas has a lifetime guarantee on these parts.
That's right. On things like struts, brakes, shocks, all kinds of automobile parts. Guaranteed for life.
Does he turn everything to gold?
Brakes.
Not everything. Luckily, he's not a dog person.
At Midas, we're always a touch better with limited lifetime guarantees on select parts, complimentary courtesy checks, and more. Book an appointment at Midas.com.
We needed to hire someone, but it was really tough finding people that had the right experience.
I was spending half my day just reading resumes.
To hire great people, go to ZipRecruiter.com and post to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with one click. Then easily select the best candidates from one list.
I'm seeing a lot more candidates with the right experience.
We have gotten consistently better results from ZipRecruiter than anywhere else.
Over 1 million businesses have already used ZipRecruiter. Try it for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/fast.
Look, here's what's wrong with your workout. You're not doing it. Why? Because you don't have time. So we invented this.
You got the brains, I got the everything else.
Hit just as hard with the wind, and well, we want to help people, honestly.
Yeah, there you go.
You got to take care of our stuff on our beach.
I was going to say, yeah, a lot of people have left a lot of stuff. Maybe you see
Arthur, I don't know if we can see, and Eric, no, we can't see the boat. There are guys that are standing on a boat out there, right?
You can. A lot of these guys are actually staying on boats. A lot of the sailboats and everything are out there on the hook because it's safer there than moored up against a dock.
Yeah, I was going to say, when this water comes back in, we're talking earlier about this, and Bob, if you see out to the Gulf, when this back end of the storm comes around, we're going to get this water coming back that same way, right?
Every action has an opposite and equal reaction.
Yeah.
And I have never seen this in almost 4 years, especially, yes, the way it's happening. 40 years here, I've never seen as much land showing right around here.
It just sucked the water just completely out of it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. That is crazy. Nobody expecting that. And Arthella and Eric, I leave you with maybe a picture out at the Gulf there. As I said, because of the counterclockwise rotation, we're getting wind blowing into the Gulf, which is knocking those waves down. But we're going to get it a different way very shortly. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but we'll see. Guys?
Well, Jeff, when you say very shortly, I mean, the worst is on its way. Do they and you have some place to go, as authorities say, to be safe, basically in a high level in the building that you're at?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people, surviving a hurricane in a building like this is not a problem. That's not going to be a problem. But I tell you, you may wish you didn't survive it when you do survive it, because after the water goes down, I suspect we won't have power, we won't have water, we won't have much of anything, and maybe not the ability to get back to dry land at some point. So it could be kind of miserable out here. You know how things are after a hurricane. Gets hot, no air conditioning, gets pretty unpleasant. So we'll see how that goes.
And so it appears to be going down a little bit, but just really not a good situation to be in. I know that the storm, at least the bulk of it, has got past Miami, but we're still getting heavy gusts. The rain is still coming down, and it's really not advised for people to be coming out because of down power lines and because of what we just showed you from the Panorama building. I mean, there are construction sites all over Miami where things could potentially come down on you. So it's a dangerous situation post-storm, and we're not even fully out of it yet.
Yeah, Brian, that was the danger and the worry over Hurricane Andrew back in 1992, that it would have a direct hit on downtown. Any indication about any injuries? Some people who live in those apartments may have sheltered in place. There was that evacuation order, but some folks just went into the stairways.
We got one man who's actually lives in the building across from the Panorama on the 42nd floor. One of those panels came crashing into his balcony, completely tearing it off. We'll have photos of that a little later. But that was the kind of situation these folks were dealing with when they were in their own condos. This area, guy, if you can go this way, this area was under a mandatory evacuation, and for good reason, because they fully expected a storm surge here. And the bottom line is that when you've got water, rescue crews can't get to you. And the last thing you want to do, let me just get this for Guy here. The last thing you want to do is find yourself in a situation where you need help and people can't get to you. So from what we understand, people have lost power here. They're starting to come out. You've probably seen a half a dozen people.
And are those alarms that we hear? Kind of burglar alarms?
Yes, those alarms, that looks like they're coming from that way. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I mean, you see the parking garage beeping. Eric, just 20 feet down, I should say 200 feet down the road, we saw a parking garage that's completely flooded, inundated. And this is just, this is the kind of flooding we're seeing. That's the JW Marriott Hotel. We've got the Colonnade Plaza. And again, I don't know how far this goes, but we had reports about 19th Street. So this is that's about 7 blocks at least on Brickell Avenue.
Hey, Brian, this is Art. You're from Miami. How does it feel being there, walking on that street with ankle-high water and just what you're seeing around you?
It's interesting because I just came back from Houston, and I didn't ride out the storm there, but I was there after the recovery. Just began to recover. It was amazing to see what was Houston, that kind of flooding. I haven't seen that sort of flooding here, but this reminds me of it. And having been down here, I haven't seen this kind of flooding, even with Hurricane Wilma. Remember, we hadn't been hit here in a very long time, and I was here in 2005. We got hit with Katrina and by Wilma, and that was the worst of it. And many of us here in South Florida had not experienced a big-time storm until now, since then. And I think in terms of the flooding, I don't remember it ever being this way after that storm. So, you know, and I was in Boca Raton, just about an hour north from here. So it's a lot of storm surge. And this is what they were talking about, though, from the very beginning. It may not have been the 10-foot storm surge, but it's definitely enough to have gotten on the first floor and on the basement levels, at least, of some of these buildings here. It's pretty incredible to see this, guys.
Yeah. All right, Brian Yennis there in Miami. Thank you very
here
much.
Here in Naples had risen about 7 feet.
Look at those pictures. Listen to that wind.
What do you know about that, and what can you do with that information to project forward in terms of what we're looking at here?
Well, I tell you what, first and foremost, I'll answer that. But, Chris, I just want to thank you and your crew for what you've done today. It's very rare to get the pictures you have given us to match with the radar images. And there's not many times in history that all of us get to experience what's it like to batter that eye wall and then into the eye. When it comes to the storm surge there, yes, it's been 7 feet. In fact, 4 feet in just 20 minutes. But you got to start at where the level of normalcy is. So the water level is up 4.1 feet above normalcy. The forecast is actually 5 to 8. So it's reasonable to assume that you're getting that wraparound wind. You can actually see another 3.5 to 4 feet if we go with the forecast. Now, word moments ago, down in Marco Island, the water is now overlapping the seawall. That's not what you want to hear. Water rides farther and faster over water instead of just land. Now, we're hoping now that this has made landfall, that Irma's going to start to choke and sputter, kind of like cutting the fuel line off for your lawnmower. It still has energy. Until that pressure starts to rise, we're not going to lose the significant strength as far as some wind gusts, but we'll still have damaging winds. When you look at the radar, and you mentioned, Chris, 2.3 million without power, I want to mention that's just customers. That's not the number of people without power. That's one home or one business. 2.3 million without power is almost 50% of their customers. So, or Florida. So, I mean, that's massive to look at. All right. Still have the tornado watch, and we still have warnings. Let's not forget about the East Coast that is seeing extreme surge, band after band of rainfall. We cannot forget about that. And in fact, around just looks like near the Orlando area, north and south, tornado warnings. We've seen over 33 tornado warnings. That number will go up. Now that we have the eye in the center here, we'll go in a little bit closer. We are about 3 hours from Port Charlotte. Now, again, when we make our way in the eye toward Fort Myers, you are in the northern band. And again, we're going to see probably the center of the eye get there within the hour. So they're going to go through the same thing you went through. 3 hours to Port Charlotte, and then about 6 to even 8 hours in the Tampa area. What's frightening at this point is that the same conditions that everybody watched, that Chris Cuomo went through, they're going to go through this, but in complete darkness. So we won't have the visuals of the flying debris, of the wall of water extending out or coming back in. So when you're flying blind, the fright really starts to grip you, and it will. But again, we're starting to see a little bit of a breakdown on that southern eye wall, which is great news, Chris, although the engine is still running, and so the surge will continue to push into every bay, every canal. And again, as we've talked about the last couple of days, we're not talking about a few hundred feet. I thought I heard you say you're like 5 to 8 blocks in. We're looking at a surge that could be as far in as several miles. And some of the inundation maps from the National Hurricane Center were pushing in as far as 8, 10, even 12 miles in some cases on this coast. But again, that happens when the center of the storm is to the north. Again, the wind gusts we're getting, and this is quite interesting, even up toward Orlando, gusts of 43. By the time the system moves northward, it'll start to kind of stagger the imagination that even in Orlando, if the system kind of continues to hang a little eastward, gusts at 85 are not out of the realm of possibility. Even up toward Tallahassee, they could see 70, 75 mile per hour wind gusts. But notice down in Naples, when you were at that 141 reported wind gusts, we have no longer any instrumentation to go with. That most likely will be the scenario as the storm continues, but we're hoping to lose a little bit of a punch with this as it moves in. But again, Chris, as you've been talking about the storm surge, 9 out of 10 people in hurricanes lose their lives from from water. So it doesn't matter if it's surge or what's falling, 9 out of 10, and you've been getting the message out. We all appreciate that.
God forbid, we'll keep an eye on it. I have eyes on this street for you, Tom. That's the best I can do in terms of monitoring what happens with this surge. We do not envy those who have to go through the eye of this storm. in the dark. That is the stuff of nightmares, and our hearts go out to those who are doing that with their loved ones and probably don't have power, so they're not even able to follow along and benefit from your wisdom and timing. Tom, thank you very much. We'll check back with you in a little bit. Right now, before we go to break, let's check in with Miguel Marquez. He's in Punta Gorda, and I don't know if you could hear Tom, Miguel, but this is a big lady that we're dealing with here with Hurricane Irma. She's going to hit you hard, and it's going to last for a long time.
Irma has been hitting us for a while, and it is definitely getting worse. I don't know if we're going to have it as badly as you, but what Tom talked about, 3 hours from Port Charlotte, we're just south of Port Charlotte. We're about 60 miles north of where you are, so we're experiencing what you did a little while ago. This is the marina. This is what's amazing. That water here is still going out on this side. This is the marina. There is no seawater in this marina anymore. It's all fresh water just pouring in off the land from this storm. The boats you see off in the distance, the big one and then the boat there, those are sitting on mud right now, incredibly enough. If you look over here to the left, you can see that there's a sign that's just about to come off of a pole there. That's the power of this wind. And then look at these, look at the trees in here. These are some of the strongest winds we've seen so far. The palm trees are just, perpendicular. They don't look, doesn't look very normal. It's amazing that these things can stay up and do fine. All the way around, it looks like Punta Gorda, at least this section of it, has just lost electricity a little while ago as well. I think they expected that. The emergency management folks talked about the storm, hurricane force winds around 8 p.m. tonight. I don't know if this storm has slowed down or not. Perhaps Tom can speak to that later, but clearly it may be slowing down a little bit before we get to that other side of the eye wall when the wind will change direction and all that water that was washed out to sea will all come back. They're expecting a 5 to 8 foot storm surge here, that wall of water from the ocean, about 3 feet on land they're expecting. So we're going to watch for that and maybe have to change positions before that happens. Chris?
All right, Miguel, stay safe, stay in touch. Dave, as we go to break, show them our giant-sized weather vane, the crane. It's not a danger here because luckily it's not as high as those high-rise cranes in Miami proper where they had trouble with a couple of them, but it is pointing straight in the direction of the Gulf. That's where this wind is coming from. So literally, the wind has the best advantage it could to send the maximum amount of water from the Gulf in storm surge right up into the heart of Naples. So we're going to take a break right now. We will keep an eye on the storm surge, and we will show you where her...
Barthel's after a long 30-hour onslaught of battering and punishing winds and rains, the storm's just about out of southeast Florida. Just a few of the backside outer bands remain, and clearly Hurricane Irma is not going out with one more slap to the face. It's been raining and windy here suddenly when we thought the last outer band was done with us for about the past 15 minutes. But this is 79th Street Causeway, a major causeway artery between the beach, which is the direction you're looking, and the city of Miami, which is...
Runs over a defender. I mean, he knocked over the great Jarrell Casey, their best defender.
Watch this right here, this great offensive line getting up. Boom! I'm back, baby, I'm beat mode!
Jackson's going to be tested. You know that today. At 2nd and 4, they go to Lynch. His first official carry. It's a good one. And Marshawn Lynch able to rumble all the way down to the 30.
Heavy flooding also there earlier this afternoon.
Again, it's Cooper twisting it down. No, he's not down yet. Moves the pile, looking and fighting for the goal line. I tell you, it's close, and it's ruled a touchdown from the far side. What an effort by Amari Cooper. Stronger. He showed it here.
Great kid. He's got the rookie. We talked about Jackson. You got to make that tackle. You got him right there. Get him down. Cooper's strength, you're right. And then watch the end. Gabe Jackson and Assembly come in and push him. Wow. This is going to be close. Let's see if he got in here.
Very much of a beatdown day.
Tough to tell from that angle.
They'll try to do it again. 3rd and 7. Mariota down the field, and that is Davis, the rookie, hauls it in, out battling Emerson for the catch. He's made his presence felt on this first drive as he keeps the drive going. Mariota keeps it, and he's going in untouched.
And from the Division of Emergency Management just now announcing 25% of all Florida houses and businesses.
It's the middle, the Crabtree. First down, breaking the tackle, and a second one. Inside the 20, and down to the 12, maybe the 11. First broke away from Cyprian. There is a flag back near the line of scrimmage.
This play call right here.
It's Lynch. They got him by the ankles for a moment. He fights for it.
Are you kidding me? That should have been stopped. That's all Marshawn Lynch. I think he got the first down. It's going to be close there.
It was Cyprian who missed him, who had him. Here's the pass. Carr is knocked down. That time Jackson made the play. The rookie hung in there and knocked it out. 5 wides again.
It's very high in September.
Crabtree with the catch.
Your ability to throw the wide part of the field one-on-one and just throw this ball on the sideline like 18 yards and your receivers just come down. I mean,
look at this catch.
They throw it everywhere. I mean, look at that catch. The way you kind of get the back up.
2nd and 8. So how far away are you? That's a great fake by Mariota. Out to the 48, a first down.
I'd say about 8.5 miles north.
But they're going to do it in a safe manner.
Crabtree, stiff arm on Jackson, which freed him to get out of bounds, save a timeout.
That's a fantastic first play.
There he shifts over to the left side. 2nd and 6. The give to Murray. A great piece of tackling that time by Khalil Mack. And the Titans start at the 20, but could have been a call against the Raiders as well, as Murray is met by Mack, who's got a second tackle here in the quarter for a loss.
Here comes a Dick O'Bell. Look at you. Tell me who the down linemen are and who's blocking who here.
They're bringing 5, 3rd and 8. Little flip pass, caught. Cooper, first down. From the 50. They take the reverse, and they dump it off to Lynch. Blockers out in front. Rodney Hudson, one of those out there helping lead the way for a gain of 16.
Fake reverse screen, and when you do that, you get the defense thinking, oh, we got you, we think it's a reverse. And then there you see Lynch. Look at that. Hudson out in front, leading the way.
Okay, 2nd and 6. From the Oakland 36. And it's Murray. Got a hole. Wiggles to the outside. And is tackled down by Joseph at the 15 and the pickup of 41.
We can barely see 100 yards in either direction. And obviously with the wind blowing at this speed,
spinning and driving.
I don't want to be out in the middle of that. Get caught upside the head by some flying branches.
Crabtree. As Jackson never turned around and the veteran beat him on this one. They hurry up to the line at the 19. Seal the pocket, go to the end zone, and it's caught for a touchdown. Seth Roberts. He has beaten Tennessee before. His first catch of this game goes for a touchdown. Launch another kick.
If you can see it, Dave, show it to him.
This time at the goal line by Joey Jackson.
The street is full. Do you see it?
Bounces off a hit. Oh, how high can you leap? That's crazy.
You want to get this place rocking? That's how you do it right there.
And we approach 9 minutes to go.
Chris Promo here in Naples along the west coast of Florida. Areas of particular vulnerability here.
First down and a whole lot more for Cooper. Williamson coming over to help out.
Sustained gust of about 140 miles an hour. That would stand up as some type of
runs over the defender. I mean, he knocked over the great Jarrell Casey, their best defender.
This right here, this great offensive line getting up. Boom! I'm back, baby! I'm beast mode!
If it's predictive of what's
Jackson's going to be tested. You know that today. At 2nd and 4, they go to Lynch. His first official carry. It's a good one. And Marshawn Lynch able to rumble all the way down to the 30.
Did he have the juice? Did he have the ability to come back and be Marshawn Lynch? Being away from the league for a year, that's a long time. I mean, he's in great shape. He's playing hard in the preseason.
This play call right here. It's Lynch. They got him by the ankles for a moment. He fights for it.
Are you kidding me? That should have been stopped. That's all Marshawn Lynch. I think he got the first down. It's going to be close there.
The coverage will continue right after this.
It was Cyprian who missed him, who had him.
Certainly. Good evening to you and
from the 50.
New York City. Our coverage will continue.
Take the reverse, and they dump it off to Lynch.
Coming your way then, and we'll see what we get here in Central Florida. We just were given a hurricane warning alert. Sandra Smith co-anchoring with me in a matter of moments here on the Fox News channel as our coverage continues. Now, a hurricane warning was just issued for the area of Orlando, and that's something we really have to keep an eye on. As we go throughout tornado warning issued for Orlando. Just
Walker's out in front.
It's the second time locally we have given that.
Rodney Hudson, one of those out there helping lead the way for a gain of 16.
Fake reverse screen, and when you do that, you get the defense thinking, oh, we got you, we think it's a reverse, and then there you see Lynch. Look at that. Hudson out in front, leading the way.
Runs over the defender. I mean, he knocked over the great Jarrell Casey, their best defender.
Watch this right here, this great offensive line getting up. Boom! I'm back, baby, I'm beast mode!
Titans and Raiders this weekend. And so as we look at the Oakland side of things here, Derek Carr now has the benefit of beast mode, Sean. So what does he really add to this offense, a unit that was 6th in the league here?
It's almost unfair to add beast mode. I think that the Raiders have one of the nastiest offensive lines in the NFL. Here's what beast mode is going to bring in the passing game. I love the attitude that he brings, the swagger. So let me show you. Everybody knows the run game. You've seen beast mode. You've seen what he's going to do. But look at this blitzer right here off the edge, okay? He's coming right here. This is Orlando Scandrick off the edge. Marshawn Lynch is going to pick him up. All right, most running backs, all right, you picked him up. You blocked him. Look at this nice pocket right here. Plenty of room for Carr to step up and make this throw. But I want you to watch the way he finishes this block. All right, this is attitude. This is swagger. This is what they're trying to do to people. He's finishing him right there. He did everything but come off the top rope. So there's the new guy, Marshawn Lynch, bringing something a little extra, a little hot mustard in the pass game. How about Cordell Patterson as an extra receiver to go with Crabtree and Cooper? Right here is Cordell right here in the slot. Right, and really Cooper's just going to run a little in route right here, and he's going to draw this defender away from Cordero. You see him right there jump this route. All right, he jumps this route right here on the pump fake of Derek Carr, and now he's wide open right here with all this space. I mean, Cordell Patterson is not just a returner now; he's the third wheel in this offense. A couple of new guys helping out with this new identity that the Raiders are going to have. I really like what Marshawn brings. I really like what Patterson can bring, not just in the passing game, but in the return game as well.
We've seen a few, but I think you
so like Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota making a big jump from year 1 to year 2. 7 more touchdowns, 1 less interception in 2016. And if we follow that formula for 2017, we're looking at 33-8. Yeah, I think the Titans would take that touchdown to interception ratio. So, Coach, now that you have the clicker in your hand here, give us an idea of what kind of progression you expect from Mariota here.
And the guy with the clicker has the last word, so remember that. But that is not an unrealistic expectation for Marcus Mariota. 30 touchdowns, that's some rare air. Single-digit interception, he's shown he's capable of that, and I'm going to show you why. And I'm going to show you the progression. We're going to start off, we're just going to do a simple route up into here, where right now he sees, I've got single coverage on the back end. I know I want to go to one of these guys. I don't know if it's man or zone yet, but it's a simple read. Now, the guy breaks to the outside. Now, right now, he knows where he wants to go. This is taking coverage outside. He's got a clean alley right to the reception. This is easy. This is rookie ball. You got no problem executing this. Now I'm going to show you where he's moved on to graduate work. I want you to watch the progression of the receiver here in the slot down the field. Marcus Mariota, again, single high defense back into here. He knows where he wants to go. First off, he knows, wait a minute, I got a trail guy, I got a guy over the top, and I got a free defender that's going to rush underneath this thing. This could be dangerous. This could be interception territory. And also, I want you to notice, he's under pressure. What does he do? He drops it in behind drop coverage. He throws it in front of deep coverage on the top. This is graduate work. This is a guy that is capable of 30 touchdowns on the season. And remember, last season, it was very pedestrian in terms of receiver group. He's added Eric Decker to go on with Delaney Walker, 2 top draft choices in Davis and Taylor. He's got the resources now to easily reach that 30-mark threshold.
And you showed that play in the red zone. He's already a seasoned veteran in that area of the field. 33 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in his career.
I know I'm just an old lineman, but, Coach, just run the ball. You got Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray.
Let's start it off the first one of the year. Raiders
Raiders at the Titans.
We have been seeing the water here.
All right. On this episode of Raiders versus Titans, Derek Carr and his teammates go on an adventure to Nashville, Tennessee, where they encounter exotic creatures and rediscover their long-lost ground game. Mariota thanks Lawan for covering for him after getting into some serious trouble on the run. And Marshawn announces he's running for Oakland Homecoming King, where he tries to bribe voters with Skittles and touchdowns.
Emma VP, as a television writer, has constructed her A, B, and C stories there.
Right.
In a way, you could kind of will we standardly get the A story at the very top there to establish the most important story for this game. We're going to start it off here with Cindy Freeland. Raiders, Titans.
His team was in Naples, about 60 miles north, or about 40 miles north of Fort Myers. I want to show you that phenomenon you guys are seeing up there in Tampa. We're seeing here as well. This is the
I'm throwing the flag. Here we go. My final score for that one. That's a new feature I'm going to do.
You're going to do scores?
Well, I give the spoiler alert that you can see on NFL.com and on social media in front of all the games. I'm going to share those deets with you here as well, and as soon as I can find it here on the piece of paper I've written down. Oh, final score, Oakland Raiders 33, Tennessee Titans 24. I have my doubts.
Yeah,
I have my doubts.
Blowout.
Really? 9-point victory.
I mean, that Raiders defense that's a blowout. 9 points is a blowout on the road.
Defense is better.
West Coast team going east, playing the early game, 10 a.m. Pacific time. You got a secondary. Do you know they're starting cornerbacks with David Emerson and Sharks? I mean, that's
once that eyewall goes through,
not good. That's
probably not Pro Bowlers.
You know, the undue faith that people seem to have in these Tennessee Titans. How about more
undue faith in the Tennessee
Why is
Titans?
everybody so over the moon about this Titans defense? I know that they're
not very good. Defense isn't very good.
There's some nice goods around there, but I mean, they're not. Listen, Dick LeBeau is the defensive coordinator, don't you know?
I mean, I love her scoring.
What about Logan Ryan? You like Logan Ryan?
Yeah. You can see over there. There's a
fine.
bank.
Probably an upgrade from last year.
Okay.
You got a young pup.
Everybody remembers how good the Raiders were, though.
You know what? I'll tell you what.
You gotta be careful, overestimate it. Like, keep in mind, people will always sit there and look, I like the Raiders. I think as far as teams, I think they're fun.
I can definitely see them going as low as third place in that division this year.
You want to hear a wacky nugget about them?
Talking about this game.
Yes, this game. Wacky nugget is, so Khalil Mack, everybody agreed, was the defensive player of the year last year. He's a wrecking ball, just a force of an individual defensive player. He, I think, was the only guy that was top 10 in like all your major, pass rushing categories, sacks, hits, hurries, all those things. You know what their defense was? So you have the defensive player of the year. Last in sacks, last in hurries, last in quarterback hits. They were like third to last in pass in defense, and yet they have the defensive player of the year that impacts the quarterback more than any other player individually. That just speaks to how bad that defense was.
Last year, their turnover differential, which is probably the most indicative stat of how good or potential to make a playoff team is. So the turnover differential last year tied for number 1, plus 16. But it wasn't because of takeaways necessarily. It's because of no giveaways or few giveaways. And now they're playing teams who have had a year of seeing how, what's going on with this O-line, which is probably the second best O-line, maybe the best O-line, just depends on kind of how you're looking at it. I think they're going to be able to scheme a little bit differently. Now, Marshawn Lynch just changed that. Your gap discipline as an opposing defense is going to have to be a little bit different when it comes to figuring out what happens with Marshawn Lynch, who can force missed tackles. But apart from that, I don't know if they have an unsustainably high turnover differential for given their secondary or not.
You don't think the defense is markedly better this season?
The Raiders defense?
The Raiders defense.
They didn't address the secondary at all. I mean, they drafted Gary Conley, but he's got a shin issue. I don't even know.
They drafted Melipomu.
Yeah, Melipomu's not. Yeah, I mean, it's a mess.
Certainly
because
earned
lying.
Is that my man?
So I'm very concerned that it comes rushing back up, and it's fast. It comes back pretty darn quickly. Rushes in, grabs up everything, and then washes.
By the way, Marshawn ran real well today. How many carries as you're going to get. Well, maybe about 18. He had a good performance. So happy about that
quickly,
as well.
and then rushes out very quickly as well. You don't want to get caught in that, particularly in the 50 or something that you can't get out of.
Take the reverse, and they dump it off to Lynch. Blockers out.
Continue to check in with you throughout the hours ahead. I want to go to Brian Todd, who's in West Palm Beach, obviously on the east side of the state. Brian, I know you've been seeing some very high winds.
We have been, Anderson. We're going on 7 hours now where we've been seeing the most intense winds, and it really hasn't died down.
Rodney Hudson, one of those out there helping lead the way for a gain of 16.
Fake reverse screen, and when you do that, you get the defense thinking, oh, we got you, we think it's a reverse, and then there you see Lynch. Look at that. Hudson out in front, leading the way.
Kind of a blue explosion, and then it's shorted out. There's a lot of heavy debris flying through the air. You've got construction sites behind me where debris has been flying all day. There was a modern art sculpture, weighs several hundred pounds, that got picked up and moved about 40 yards away. So very intense wind bursts here. We're told that we're on the northeast quadrant of the storm, which is the so-called dirty side of the storm. Just a lot of the repurposed energy that is circulated is now pounding us here in West Palm Beach, as you can see. I heard Miguel talking a little earlier about, the ferocity of the wind feeling like needles on your face. That's exactly the way it feels here. Not a comfortable feeling. Some other horrible news tonight, Anderson. We learned a short time ago that we do have confirmed 2 fatalities of law enforcement officers in Hardee County who died in a collision with each other, 2 separate vehicles. So we can report that tonight. Authorities are telling people here, do not venture out in this tonight, because you could get arrested or you could get seriously hurt. Anderson.
The death of any law enforcement or first responders, I mean, that's the worst case scenario. We've been talking to so many law enforcement personnel who have been saying, look, when it gets just too dangerous to go out, protection of the officers is paramount. That's awful to hear about those two officers. We'll try to find out more details on that. Brian, just in terms of storm surge, I know that had been a concern in West Palm Beach. Have you seen any of that there? Is there water on the ground?
There's a little bit of water, Anderson, but I think for the most part they've dodged that bullet here. We were told to expect some flooding on Flagler Drive, just to my left to your right, from the Intercoastal Waterway. Thankfully, that has not happened. The water is intense there, a lot of white caps, and we're not out of the woods here yet. But so far we have not, thankfully, seen that storm surge. What we have gotten is tornadic activity. Water spouts have developed in the Intercoastal Waterway that have threatened inland in this area with tornadoes. There were tornado warnings just to the west of us, and tornadoes that were spotted moving from the south. So we're surrounded by tornadic activity, and luckily none have touched down right where we are, but it's close at hand.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to check back with you, Brian. Be careful with those winds. I want to go to Tom Sater to just get a sense of the timeline of what to expect for all the residents here along the West Coast and obviously on the East Coast as well. Tom, let's just talk about where the storm is now, the power, and where it's heading.
Okay, believe it or not, it's 15 miles east-northeast of Fort Myers. So it doesn't look like they're going to get in the eye. We'll break it down. But at the top of the hour, we've seen a rise in the pressure, which means it's trying to weaken. Just as we have seen drops, it takes a while for the wind speed to catch up with its strengthening. When the pressure rises, it takes a while for the wind speed to react to weakening. Now, what this means is, hey, Category 2, pay no attention to that. We're still 1 mile per hour away from a Category 3, which is considered major. We still have a lot of red on the infrared imagery, so it still has quite a bit of high cloud cover, high colder cloud tops, and we're seeing that. Now, tornado watch to the north. We cannot forget about these tornado warnings, and they're near the Orlando area and off to the east on the coastline. But when we get in closer and you look at the center here, a couple of things we're going to be talking about, and that's the surge. Notice the heavy activity of the convective activity to the east of Fort Myers. We are looking at Fort Myers. We're looking at the eye pretty much as mentioned, east-northeast of them. So again, they're going to miss the eye, and it's going to continue on its movement to the north. Now, we're still getting some pretty good wind gusts out of this. In fact, we're looking at Fort Myers. They had a wind gust of 88 miles per hour. You get into around a little closer and even around Cape Coral, we'll get looking at 101. So it still has some strength. It's not as strong on the southern end, but again, as it continues to move, we're wondering now, and of course, as you were talking about around Punta Gorda, we are still thinking about, 8:30, 9 o'clock. So again, if the system continues to move at 15, our question is, will it move due north, or will it start to curve back toward Tampa? And again, for you, Anderson, that's still a good, it may be late tonight in the darkness, 6-7 hours or so. And that's the frightening part of this. Now, if we get in a little bit closer and we look at the other side, besides looking at the tornadoes and the surge to the east and the northeast, we look down to the south. Marco Island right now, they're completely seeing water now, not just submerged the docks, but it's over the seawall. And now we have in Fort Myers, this is quite interesting now, or in Naples, in Naples, we've seen a 4.9 increase now. That's above normal tide. 4.9, that's above the ground. The forecast, remember, is 5 to 8. So really, after the water receded and pushed out and away toward the west, in the last 3 hours, the water height has increased by 9 feet. So it continues to go up. At 4.9, that's above normal height, and we're going to continue to see a little bit more. That is on those westerlies that are coming in, and that's going to be the problem for the entire west coast as the storm moves northward. Again, we're not going to see the eye move over Fort Myers, but you don't have to be. You're still seeing those wind gusts that mentioned that are about 100 to 88 to 101 miles per hour. We're hoping that the system will start to choke itself down now that it's over land. But again, it's still a massive storm that's going to take a while. The heavy bands of rain are going to be blinding areas of central Florida and toward the east. They will try to wrap around this eye somewhat, but it's going to be in the darkness of night. And I can't stress this enough. As the system moves northward, we're not going to have the pictures that we've been able to see all day of the flying debris, knowing what direction the winds are blowing in. So it's going to be quite harrowing for millions of people that are going to be just hearing objects hit the home. They're going to hear shingles come off. They're going to hear trees break and branch and fall. They're not going to know exactly what they're dealing with. That's why you just got to hunker down without power or with it if you're one of the lucky ones. I don't think the eye is going to move right over Tampa where you are, but we're going to watch it closely. You may still, again, just be on that western eye wall, which is strong enough, Anderson.
So I just want to reiterate, because it's a little hard to hear you. For people in Fort Myers, you're saying the eye will not cross over Fort Myers.
No, it's 15 miles east-northeast. So they're still in the eye wall. They're just on the western eye wall. I mean, it's still strong, but they're not going to see a calm in the winds. And then they'll continue to deal, of course, with that surge coming in on the back edge. But it doesn't look like they're going to get in the eye. It's already passing to their east-northeast.
All right, well, that's a little bit of good news for them. Tom, thanks very much. I want to go to Drew Griffin, who is in Fort Myers, has been for days. Drew, that's a little bit of good news. You're still going to get that western part of the eye wall, but not the eye passing over itself.
Anderson, actually, we are at the airport, near the airport, which is east, just east and south of Fort Myers. And we experienced the eye. We experienced the calmness of that eye. We experienced the birds coming out and chirping, and everybody out here kind of ran out. They're gone now, but they ran out, took their dogs out, took a little picture, and then ran back in, because just as we were coming back up, that eye wall dissipated, and now we're getting the wind directly from the opposite side. We're panning up to the clouds. I know you can't see this, Anderson, but not an hour ago, those clouds were going in the exact opposite direction. If you've never been in a hurricane, this is the experience of the swirling radar that you see in real life. These clouds that were hitting us from the northeast are now coming around and about to hit us from the southwest. We are getting battered almost straight from the west right now as that eye, the southern end, I guess, of the eye wall is pushing through us now, and now we're getting what is the backside of the hurricane. It's usually has less winds. We had top winds, I would say, around 110 when it came through. It's usually less, But now all the debris...
It's NFL Numbers Week 1 edition. 6 teams making their regular season debut with a new head coach. The list includes Sean McDermott, Vance Joseph, Doug Marrone, Anthony Lynn, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan. 8 quarterbacks in NFL history to win AP Offensive Rookie of the Year, including 2016 winner Dak Prescott. None made the Pro Bowl their second season. 24.9% of teams that made the playoffs after losing their season opener since 1990. 21 projected Week 1 fantasy points for Aaron Rodgers, according to NFL.com. Most among all players. 27 starting quarterbacks the Browns have fielded since 1999, including Week 1 start.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be. I'll try to get. I don't know if I can drive there tonight to see what the situation is. I'm sure they have some sort of emergency power where there is some sort of light. But yeah, this whole area has lost power, and people are just going to have to deal with that tonight as darkness falls. But it does look like eventually, in the next couple of 3 hours, we're going to see these winds really begin to fade and Irma begin to move on up the coast towards you. Anderson?
Yeah, Drew, thanks very much. I want to go to Alex Marquardt, who is in Sarasota, about 50 miles south here where I am in Tampa. Alex, obviously the worst has not gotten to you yet, but what are you seeing?
No, it hasn't, but it's very clear that Irma is heading straight for us. We've seen what happened in Miami. We've seen what happened in Naples, down there in Punta Gorda with Miguel, just 40 miles to the south of us. And so we know what is coming for us up here in Sarasota. These weather conditions have deteriorated significantly in the past hour. And what we're looking at here is wave after wave of rain and wind just sweeping down this main street in central Sarasota. If you look across the street, you can see the tops of those palm trees just getting tossed around like rag dolls. Now, you can see these street lights. We still do have power. I can't imagine that that's going to last through the night. Officials here tell us that the power could be out for weeks. It is still on now. What we are beginning to see, though, are the branches, the palm fronds, metal siding, that debris in the streets that, as the winds become more violent, become much more dangerous, become those flying projectiles. Anderson, it is a funny feeling knowing that this is about as good as it's going to get out here tonight, minute by minute, hour by hour. The conditions are getting worse. We are expecting the eye of Irma to pass over us or nearby around midnight, but the winds are going to pick up significantly in the next 2 hours. It's just after 7 o'clock now. We are expecting hurricane force winds at around 9 o'clock, somewhere between 75, 95 miles an hour with gusts over 100 miles an hour. I was speaking with the city manager's office earlier today. They said that they are ready and waiting for Irma. Anderson, they don't have to wait much longer.
Yeah, Alex, I mean, it's bad enough to experience an earthquake as people on the East Coast did during the day, as we saw in Miami and Miami Beach and West Palm Beach. It is an entirely different thing to experience a hurricane force winds in the dark of night, when you can't see what is hurtling toward you, when you can't see, you hear things snapping, you hear things breaking, you hear metal twisting, you may see transformers exploding with that eerie blue light, but you can't see what is out there, what is moving down the street. It makes it all the more terrifying for people who are down in their homes or in shelters, Alex.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Thankfully, there are very few people out here right now. So even once the debris starts flying, hopefully very few people can be hurt. We've seen people walking around. We have seen some cars. Hopefully they will be going inside soon. But what the city manager, Tom Barwin, told us is that he was hoping that this storm would barrel through earlier in the day. It slowed down. We heard last from our own meteorologist that it was moving around 14 miles an hour. That may have changed recently. But what that means is that you're absolutely right. The worst of this is going to happen in the middle of the night. What the city managers here had been hoping is that the worst would come through during the day, which means that they would be able to start assessing and rebuilding once the storm had passed. Now they won't be able to do that in the middle of the night, but we're being told that they're going to go out first thing in the morning as dawn breaks to make their post-storm assessment. But keep in mind, the winds are still going to be howling at that hour, Anderson.
Alex, we'll check in with you. We are just now starting to get a sense of the damage in the Keys. Our Bill Weir, who rode out the storm in Key Largo, is there now for us. I know, Bill, you were driving around a little bit earlier. I saw you starting to see some of the debris in the road. How are things now that you're seeing?
Anderson, I'm about to show you something that has shaken me unlike anything I've seen in 25 years of reporting and 8 other hurricanes. Thursday night, I stood right here and interviewed the owner of a bar called Snappers and a bunch of very festive Key West residents who were debating whether to evacuate or stay. Peter was at that time determined to stay, hole up inside his bar. He changed his mind, and good thing he did, because it's completely gone. Look at this. Gone. The entire bar. Right here, where I sat and had shrimp tacos with my crew after the live shot and hung out with these amazingly warm, gracious people. It's gone. It's been shoved up by the storm surge into the side of the fence of the neighboring businesses here. This was the bar. You can see they tried to board up with plywood, but the storm, the winds blew through it. And then inside the restaurant shoved everything up against the western wall of this place. And your heart just breaks. Peter, the owner of this place, I just left him a voicemail. One of his employees told me he had AAA insurance. I hope that's the case, because this is a total write-off. You can see these were all slips for jet skis that have been shoved up. Enemy armor is damaged. The restaurants. This was a hugely popular place on the Atlantic side of Key Largo, an institution for the Netherlands. He bought it a couple of years ago, expanded it. But if this is a sample of what we're going to find down in Key West, you know, paradise, the southern paradise of the United States as we know it, has fundamentally changed, Anderson.
That you had been at. We're going to put them up on the screen. I can't actually see them, obviously, but we want our viewers to be able to see before and what it looks like now. There were so many people, Bill, who you had talked to, who were talking about riding out the storm. Some of them did change their minds in the last minute, but a lot of people did stay in the Keys.
A lot of people stayed. A lot of people stayed because they were afraid of gas lines. They didn't want to get on the highway. I'm guessing this might serve as a lesson. And over to this side here, Rod, if you would have shown up. I really can't get over it. I mean, we did all of our morning live shots here on Friday. We had, you know, tap water coffee at the bar standing right here. You know, it's hard as a reporter. You come in, you meet people, you hear their stories of what it was like before the devastation hit. But to have spent some time here and now see it in this way is just, I get a little taste. Residents of Florida who live and love this place are in for in the worst hit parts of Irma. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, terrible to see it like that. Bill, we're going to talk to you a little bit later on. We're going to take a quick break. More with our reporters. We're going to talk to the fire chief here in Tampa just to get a sense of what he has been seeing, what he is concerned about at this hour. We'll be right back.
Let's get this show on the road.
Seeing what he is concerned about at this hour. We'll be right back.
You know, when we talked to Channing Frampton in North Naples and looked at his picture at about that time, he was dealing with some trees that were breaking off and some damage in his area.
We have some more video sent to us from Grace Dowling. This is the Monterey neighborhood in Naples. There we're starting to see some water again. This came in not that long ago. I don't have a timestamp on it, but that looks to be more than just fresh water and rain, perhaps, Jim?
Anderson, we're definitely concerned about the amount of wind and the velocity of this wind and you know, the unknown of what this storm is actually going to do to the Tampa Bay community.
When you look at this river right over here, with the amount that it has dropped today, that's got to make you worried.
That is a very serious concern, Anderson. As you see how far this river has dropped down, we know that this water has gone out into the bay and is being stacked up. And after that eye passes us, this water is going to return back with a lot of water with it. So that's a major storm surge for Tampa Bay community.
Yeah, and a lot of people may not realize Tampa Bay has some 700 miles of coastline, some of the most beautiful coastline in the country. But that means a lot of houses building very close to the water and very close, very low.
Absolutely. If you look, the bulk of our infrastructure is right on the Tampa Bay. And because of the low elevation as well, and with the amount of storm surge and the amount of water we're considering, we're at about just 3 feet above the sea level. Feet storm surge, it creates havoc for our community.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big hospital right down there. And also Tampa, I mean, again, this is a city that has not experienced a storm of this level, the potential of this level, Category 3. It's just right now below Category 3 since 1921. And you get a good rainfall here, and there's flooding in some parts of Tampa and St. Petersburg.
That's right. We have a number of very low areas, and the entire Tampa Bay community and the city of Tampa, we're very familiar with all of those vulnerable areas and those low areas. But when you have a storm like this, with the velocity and the magnitude that is coming and what it's doing to the bay, it absolutely brings another set of conditions that we really have to be really prepared for.
Yeah. Well, Chief, I wish you the best of you and all your firefighters. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I want to go to Ryan Young now, who is standing by in Clearwater, Florida. Ryan, how is it there?
Well, guess what? The winds have picked up tremendously here, Anderson. Most of the day we've been talking to people who are trying to make that decision about whether they're going to leave or not because they weren't sure if it was going to be the winds or the water. And talking to some, they said, look, we know this area floods, but we maybe want to wait it out in our homes because we're scared about the aftermath. Well, at this point, you can just hear how the wind is pounding us. It's got a great 1-2 punch here. We've actually seen some signs already ripping down. If you look back this direction, you can kind of see the rain kind of blowing sideways, and it's taking all of us to kind of stand straight up in this area. Now, we've also been told by the St. Pete Police Department that they pulled all their officers off the street because after the wind got above 40 miles per hour, they wanted to make sure their first responders were okay. Now, we've seen some highway patrolmen going by, but for the most part, people have cleared the streets here. In fact, we even talked to someone who came in this area to kind of restore power after this is all over. They say they haven't seen the wind gusts picked up this quickly, this fast in a long time with all the storms they've been to. So you can just kind of imagine what people are bracing themselves for as the storm starts to move through. So this is something that people will be kind of waiting for. Power is still on, and so that's the good part.
You know, Ryan, it's interesting, just as you were saying that the winds have started to pick up, the rain has started to pick up in Clearwater. I mean, Clearwater's just west of where I am, not too far. It makes up the Bay Area, Clearwater, St. Petersburg, Tampa. The winds now, just in the last, 30 seconds or so while you were speaking, they have picked up here as well. It's a lot more rain now coming in sideways. I want to bring in Tom Sater. Ryan, stay with us, but I want to bring in Tom Sater. Tom, can you just explain what right now we're seeing in Clearwater, what right now we're seeing here in Tampa?
All right, actually, if we break down the radar, it pretty much explains everything. We're about 20 miles now east-northeast of the area, of course, of concern. When we talk about the radar as far as Cape Coral, they are suspending, by the way, already all emergency services up in St. Petersburg because the bands are moving into that area. If we can show you where the eye is, and you'll be able to see it right here. As it continues its movement, what is a concern, and we're not really sure exactly if it's going to continue on a northerly track or if it's going to curve back to the northwest. So again, as we continue to watch this area, You can almost, for the most part, give it an hour by. Our concern is, however, as it continues to break down, it's that surge on the back end that's coming in from the west, and that's going to continue to happen. But for the most part, we're really kind of just watching this on a radar image right now because we know the system is breaking down. When you look at the satellite imagery, and we're going to continue to watch this, it's lost its eye. We no longer can actually follow it as far as an eye. We know that there's still some circulation with that, and the continuing track is kind of confusing right now because if you look at the cone of uncertainty here, it almost brings it offshore again, or the possibility around the Big Bend. Yes, it takes it to the north. By the way, we're seeing some of these wind gusts that are quite astounding, at 142 in Naples. Big Pine is where we had our landfall this morning around 9 a.m. between Key West and Big Pine. They were at 120. But again, Anderson, as we continue to monitor these movements, we're going to watch these wind gusts most likely break down. They'll become more like around 99, then they'll drop down to 90. But the models are still differing now that the system is on land because we've choked off its main supply of water source. And again, it will start to wobble somewhat. So we're still trying to gather exactly the movement of time, hour by hour, as it makes its way northward. We're not going to see the strongest wind gusts create much damage, but you know, a gust at over 70, 75 miles per hour is possible from Orlando all the way to Tallahassee. Governor Nathan Deal in Georgia has now put a state of emergency for 159 counties, so schools are closed there, and they're going to see tropical storm force winds, possibly around 50. But again, the radar is telling everything right now. 20 miles east-northeast now of Fort Myers, so they're missing out on the eye. But again, we continue to watch where will that center go, because that means everything for the next couple of hours. If we broaden out a little bit or even get in, you'll see that all we have really around the eye is excess of heavy rainfall on that north and eastern quadrant. So that's the area where the winds are still the strongest. The heavy rain is still pounding, and that heavy rain forces those stronger winds down to the surface. So that is really the concern. But will it make its way and curve more toward you, Anderson? We do believe so, but of course it's got to make that turn again at some point in the next couple of hours.
And you talk about the breakdown of the eye. Just explain the significance of that, because it is now a Cat 2. I assume that just means it's going to be weakening, which is certainly good news for anybody in its path in the hours ahead.
It is. When you lose that eye, it starts to kind of become more of an entire rain shield. When you lose the eye, you're losing what basically is the exhaust of this engine. When everything gets funneled up from the bottom, remember, the moisture and the water is its fuel. We cut it off with land, and so no longer do you have that column of upward movement and fanning out high above. So the eye is going to start to close up. It still will putt and choke and spit like an engine, but it's losing its force. So again, there's still going to be wind gusts. We're not going to see the sustained as strong as they were earlier, but again, it's still a formidable storm. I mean, we're only 1 mile per hour off from Category 3, but the pressure's rising, which means we're going to lose some strength with this. But again, we don't want to use the word downgraded because it's such a massive storm. I mean, we still have tornado warnings. We still have a surge on the East Coast. We are starting to see in a little bit down to the south, we're going to get a little bit of a break now when it comes in toward Miami. Don't be fooled by these feeder bands sliding west to east and even northeast, because the winds are still coming in from the south and they're still feeding in between these bands. So again, that still could cause the water to slowly make its way, still in Biscayne Bay, the unprecedented flooding we had in the financial district in Miami. But it's farther to the north where it's more going to be inland. This will start to subside once the system moves to the north, the flooding that is, in Miami-Dade into Monroe. But again, as long as we still have some circulation, we still have some sort of a motor. It is not the horsepower that it was earlier in the day, but again, it's still going to knock out power. It's still going to throw a lot of debris around. Anderson, we're not going to have a Harvey again. It'll be retired. We're not going to have an Irma again. These names are going to be retired. It's the first time to have back-to-back hurricane names retired since Rita and Stan 12 years ago. These are formidable storms, and we'll talk about history, of course, in the days ahead, but this is rewriting the record books.
Yeah. Tom, thanks very much. I want to go back to Ryan Young, who's in Clearwater now from New York. Ryan, I mean, just as we were talking about with Chief Forward of the fire department here in Tampa, there are so many houses built around the Tampa Bay. I mean, the construction in this area, in the Bay Area, has exploded over the last couple of years. I mean, you see the cranes behind me there. That's just 2 cranes. There has been so much development here in Tampa, also in Clearwater, also in St. Petersburg. That the chief was saying, floods of 3 feet, a storm surge of 3 feet even. You're going to get problems in people's homes. On top of that, you're going to have these hurricane force winds with waves on top of that storm surge in where you are.
That's been an absolute conversation here in this area. Look, Tampa's a very beautiful place. I grew up here in Florida. One of the reasons why it's so beautiful, you don't have to be rich to live near the water. So many people have we're immobilized. Talk to people who are residents here. I said there's nowhere for the water to go at this point. We did talk to some people who have some new FEMA certified homes off the ground. That's great for those people who have the wind-resistant roofs who can sustain this. But when you talk to other people who they're just hoping to get through the storm into flooding areas. In fact, we went to a trailer park this afternoon, and the woman looked at us and said, I can't leave this. This is my prized possession. I would never want to leave this area. You can understand her pain when you feel this wind and the water and know that the flooding could be coming, because the flooding comes all the time. I understand the kind of decisions they're trying to make at this point. But when you feel this, you understand how dangerous this could be. I mean, we're doing our best to stand up here. Still, it's the idea that the waters could be coming and the flooding could happen. That's what everyone's been talking about for the last few days, especially when the water just left and we saw certain areas, the bays, another one like that water, and you know the water's going to come rushing back in. You just got to cross your fingers for these people and hope they're able to get through the night, especially with darkness coming.
Yeah. Ryan, we'll talk to you shortly. Later on, we're going to continue to check in with our correspondents, not only in Key Largo with Bill Weir, to try to assess the damage in the Keys. Obviously, that was the place it made landfall, the place a lot of folks were most worried about. But even in Naples, I mean, if you were watching CNN earlier with the coverage of Chris Cuomo and Ed Lavandera, they were just battered. The people in Naples, the property in Naples, just sheets and sheets of water hour after hour. It was extraordinary to see those images. We're trying to assess what sort of damage there is there as well. More ahead.